Hello and welcome to SEO is Not That Hard. I'm your host, Ed Dawson, the founder of KeywordsPeopleUse.com, the solution to finding the questions people ask online. In today's episode, I'm going to cover why I founded Keywords People Use and how it helps website builders better serve their audiences. Okay, so in the previous episode, I covered how we built and then subsequently sold broadband.co.uk. And we did that sale in August 2021. So this obviously left me with more time available and more resources. So although I'm still running a bunch of other affiliate sites and still continue to do so today, I wanted a slightly different challenge. I had the time and the resources to try it. So I looked around and I was, obviously I've been involved in SEO for 20 years. Never really as an SEO, not someone giving advice, but just being in the industry and utilising SEO to build websites and businesses. I was very frustrated at seeing so much conflicting advice out there and different points of view, some which I agreed with, some I might not agree with, and some I wasn't sure about, but there just seemed to be too much poor advice. And I had a particular frustration over a lot of the keyword tools and how they're fixated on search volumes, which is something that I never ever really considered when building any of my sites. I've always found that chasing keywords with high volume, you're just getting in a race with other people. And I've always found it's not necessarily the best way to design the content and the design for a site by just looking at what the high volume keywords are. I've always looked at sites in the round, so looking at how to become an authority in any given subject, because that way you actually pick up way more keywords, way more traffic over a much broader spectrum than if you just concentrate on narrow high volume keywords. So my process has always been to think of authority rather than keyword volume. And the framework I've developed over time has been to answer people's questions to build authority. Because people fundamentally go online to get their questions answered. So if you're answering people's questions, you're naturally going to pick up more and more keywords by answering the questions that people ask. I call this the Authority Builder Framework. So how it works is I'll identify the questions people ask on a topic or a subtopic, because obviously it's very hard to get the entire topic in one go. But we always think in terms of what are the questions that people are asking on this. Whenever we create any content, what are the questions people are asking? So we then build all these questions up and we map them into related topical groups or clusters. And then we build the content for those clusters. And then we link the clusters together. This is the strategy I've used with broadband.co.uk and other sites that I've built. It's helped us get away from the link building trap, because by producing content in this way, over time, you will naturally start to build links, because the more people's questions you answer, some of those people will end up linking to you, especially other site owners who are looking to answer a question. They've got a question, a related question to their content they're writing. If they find you help them answer it, some of them will link to, and it might start on lower volume keywords to start with, but then it will start picking up more and more higher volume keywords. Now I've talked about not worrying about volume, but this is how it actually works over time. You'll actually start to build those volume keywords by getting more and more links. So an example of how this works can be seen on broadband.co.uk, where we grouped content into topical clusters such as fixed line broadband providers, and another cluster would be mobile broadband providers. Then we further split each of these content areas, such as providers and the questions people ask about these providers, into separate pages within these clusters and then interlinking them. You can see this for yourself by just going to visit broadband.co.uk. If you have a poke around, you'll see the structure of the site. You'll see how we separated those clusters out, how we then broke those clusters into individual component parts, then answered the questions people have and then linked them together. So after I sold broadband.co.uk, now I've got the time to actually think about this framework in a more repeatable way. So this is where Keywords People Use was born. And the idea is there is to accelerate this process of question discovery and topical mapping and then content generation. So the first thing we built was to help people finding questions. So we identified a number of places online where we can find questions that people actually ask. That's the key thing with this. Rather than trying to just think of all the questions ourselves, it's much better to actually find sources of questions people are actually asking online, because you get a much broader spread of questions. You'll get questions you never would even thought of, because you're mining the crowd rather than just trying to rely on your single person or your own thoughts on this. So if you went to keywordspeopleuse.com, you'd see we've got a number of different searches. I'll just quickly run through them. I won't go into detail, and we'll do that probably in other episodes when it's appropriate. But right now, the first one is People Also Ask. That's where we mine Google's People Also Ask data to get questions that Google have seen people asking online. We use Google Autocomplete, which again works in a similar way to People Also Ask in the fact that it's based on actual user data, but rather this is sort of volume data. The things that the questions that Google's seen people ask are the most common ones, and it will try and autocomplete for you. So we use that to mine questions out. We've then got Reddit and Quora. So we go to Reddit and Quora, which is a great place to find questions that people have asked. Especially there tend to be ones which people can't find answers for straight away online, so they actually go and ask in a forum. So that's a good source. We've then got Semantic Keywords and Keyword Generator, which again are based on the Google Autocomplete data, but with slightly different modifiers that we put in. We've then got Content Explorer, which will go and actually mine the top ranking pages on a subject to look for questions within those pages that the current top ranking sites are using. We've also got an AI assistant, which helps you search some of the large language models for questions in there. So that is the kind of the basic starting point. So using those different searches, you can create, you can quite quickly find hundreds, if not thousands, of questions on any topic, any niche, for any country, in any language. So this is incredibly powerful. So what would have taken weeks, if not months of work, sort of 15 years ago to get this data, and even just a few years ago, although the data was starting to surface within these websites and search engines, it was still, the tools weren't there to quickly mine this data out. So we've built those tools so you can quickly mine it out and save those questions. The second part then is, once we've got our questions, is then to start to group them and cluster them into related questions. Because obviously, if you've got thousands of questions, you don't necessarily want to create thousands of pages. It's not necessarily always appropriate to make a single page for a single question. Might be in some cases, but in most cases not. And then obviously, so you need to sort of group and cluster those questions to find similar questions, because some questions will be semantically very similar. So if you can get the right intent, you can find that you can group a number of those questions into one single question. You can then answer in a way that will make sure it picks up all the other question types. And then you also want to group related question groups. They become then your clusters. So for example, going back to the broadband.co.uk example, some questions would be about fixed line providers. So we'd be clustering them into the fixed line providers cluster. Others would be about mobile providers. They will get put into the mobile provider cluster. Others would be unrelated to either of those two, and you would then create another cluster to build around all the different types of clusters. So we've got within these searches and within the AI system, we've got a number of different ways that you can cluster those different questions to start to build that topical map up. And then the final piece of the puzzle is obviously content generation. Now, there's a number of ways you can do this. You can obviously write them all from scratch, human written, and that is really the gold standard, I'd say still. But you can use AI to help here. There's a number of ways you can use AI for creating a content brief. It's a great AI can really provide good content briefs, so it can get you to think about all the things you need to cover for a piece of content that you might not necessarily have thought of yourself. So we kind of strongly recommend using AI content briefs. You can also, as well, we've got built-in content generation, so you can actually just create articles from scratch. Again, with these, it's always good with any of these to fact check them and to human edit them. It can accelerate your content production incredibly well. But again, I'd still, at this point in time, I think it's still important that there's a human element to any content generation. We certainly wouldn't put out any pure AI content at the moment, and would always want, if we were using AI in any part of the process, we'd still want human input in there to make sure that the quality was good, factually correct, those kind of things. But it's definitely part of the future mix. It's impossible to ignore the impact AI is going to have. It's going to improve over time. So I think you have to have an appreciation of it, and you have to sort of include it as part of your strategy for the future. We started development of Keywords People Use in early 2022, and we launched publicly in October 2022. So we've been going about 11 months now at this point. And we've seen absolutely incredible growth. We've gone from 0 to thousands of people using the site every day now. And we've still got loads more development to do. We have got so many features we're working on. We've got some fantastic ideas for making the process of starting with an idea to developing the content for a site, using the Authority Builder framework to make it as easy and quick as possible. And there's definitely more coming on that. And, I just want, going back to the whole link building thing, we've done no link building on this. If you go and look at our backlink profile, on any of the backlink checker tools, you will see that we've just got a completely natural profile. And that's because we focused on creating a really powerful and useful experience for our users. So, this goes to the Authority Builder part. We answer people's questions. And that's the question of, what are people asking about any niche topic online? So Keywords People Use is an automated question answerer, because we use tool to go out and mine that data. But it's working on the same principle, that being you answer people's questions. So a common question I get asked is, why do this? Why not just keep the tool to myself and keep developing my own sites? Well, there's a couple of reasons. One, it's been very expensive to build Keywords People Use. We've spent a 6-figure sum building the site so far. We spend thousands a month on new development. If it was just for my own use, then it would be hard to justify that. Whereas sharing it with others helps share the cost. So I benefit, other people benefit, everyone's a winner with that. And the second point is, I want to see a better web, better sites with more useful content that actually helps people. And I can only produce so many sites myself with my own team. And, I only have experience in certain areas. Whereas by building this tool, it helps thousands of other people create better content and a better web. So it's a way of scaling that influence over content production in a way that helps many, many more people than if we just tried to do it ourselves. So by having a tool like this means we can have a much greater impact together than if it was just something we kept for ourselves. So hopefully now you've got a good overview there of why we decided to build Keywords People Use, what Keywords People Use actually does, how it helps accelerate the Authority Builder framework that we developed, and how it might help you develop, build, extend your websites and serve your website users in the most beneficial way. Thanks for listening. I really appreciate it. Please subscribe and share, as it really helps. SEO is not that hard is brought to you by keywordspeopleuse.com, the solution to finding the questions people ask online. See why thousands of people use us every day. Try it for free at keywordspeopleuse.com. If you want to get in touch or have any questions, I'd love to hear from you. I'm at Channel 5 on Twitter, or you can email me at podcast@keywordspeopleuse.com. Bye for now, and see you in the next episode of SEO is Not That Hard.